Joe Conley Show!
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life.
Welcome to the show. Today, we're talking about imperialism. Before we start, I'll tell you a little joke. Why couldn't the teenager get into the movie theater or watch a pirate movie? It was rated R! Alright, well, here's on my World War II show. Now we're here to talk about imperialism. Imperialism is the economic and political domination of a stronger nation over a weaker nation. The question is, though, why? Why did America get into imperialism? Help us answer the question. We have Dr. DeSense. Oh, welcome to the show, Doc.
Pleasure being.
Alright, well, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, cut the break, bring some more guests on, and we'll be done.
Sounds good.
First, can you tell me all the factors as to why America did get into imperialism?
Certainly. First factor was that the other countries did it too. We simply didn't want to be the only country that didn't expand its power.
Make us look weak.
Another factor would be for the economic markets. We had to sell the stuff, relating back to industrialization.
Help our government get more money. All in all,
We
help
did
us.
We did that. Also for manifest destiny, the belief that the United States was destined to sail across the countries. And also for military bases, spread Christianity and resources, especially sugar.
Especially sugar was important back then, was it not? It was. Well, so can you tell me more about how this manifest destiny related to Anglo-Saxonism?
Yep. Americans believed that it was the nation's destiny to expand west to the Pacific Ocean. Now they believed it was the destiny of the U.S. to expand overseas and spread its civilization to other people.
Interesting. Now what about social Darwinism? How did that tie into all this?
Well, supporters of social Darwinism argued that nations competed with each other politically, economically, and militarily, and only that the strongest would ultimately survive.
Well, you heard it, folks. We're going to cut the break and we're going to have a new speaker on. Welcome back to the show. Took a little break. We're back to talk about annexing Hawaii. January 16th, 1893. The day the United States sent Marines over to Hawaiian Islands to claim its dominance. Tell us more about that day. We have one of John L. Stevens' 162 Marines, Lieutenant Wood. Good morning, Wood.
What you do?
Oh, well, isn't it? Yes, it is. Well, it's actually morning, but that's okay.
It's okay.
Alright, so, tell me what went down this historical day in American history.
Well, under the view of John L. Stevens, the American minister to Hawaii, he claimed that Queen Liliuokalani had created widespread turmoil and endangered American lives and property. He believed that Hawaii became part of the United States with its profitable sugarcane plantations.
The sugarcane plantations, they made so much
A
money.
lot of dough.
That's a lot of dough. Alright, so, what happens for us to annex Hawaii?
Well, the Marines took no action against Hawaiian government. Just our presence intimidated the Queen's supporters. It only took hours for American settlers to abolish the monarchy and set up a provisionalist government. It wasn't until February 1st that Stevens announced that Hawaii, now under American protection. At the time, President Cleveland strongly opposed imperialism, so it wasn't until 5 years later that the United States annexed Hawaii.
Well, that's quite a good story there, but we're going to take a short break and we'll be back soon, and we'll hear more about imperialism in the United States. Welcome back to the show. Hope you had a good break. We had a funny scenario happen. See, Lieutenant Wood wanted a cup of Kool-Aid from my pot of Kool-Aid. So I went to put the Kool-Aid in his cup, and I spilled the Kool-Aid all over his uniform. So now, he had to change his clothes to his sweatshirt and jeans. But it's okay. We're going to get back on a serious note here and talk about America building a modern navy. See, as imperialism and Anglo-Saxonism began to gain support in the late 1800s, the United States became increasingly assertive in foreign affairs. As the American people and the government became more willing to risk war in defense of American interests overseas, support for building a large modern navy began to grow. If the United States did not build up its navy and acquire bases overseas, it would be shut out of foreign markets by the Europeans. To help spread knowledge about building a modern navy, we have Captain Alfred P. Mahan. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Captain.
Roy, Alfred,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you.
Cold.
Ooh, chilly in here, isn't it? Ah,
Should I brought my
I'm
jacket?
sorry. You should.
Okay.
He has his sweatshirt on. Where's yours?
I didn't spill coffee on my
Well, it's okay. So first, what can you tell us about how you helped build America's modern
Well, first, I published my book called The Influence of Sea Power Upon History from 1660 to 1783.
I never read the book, but I might have to now.
You should.
Tell me, what did the book express?
My book pointed out prosperous people in the past with large fleets of merchant ships could trade with the world. Also, that a nation needs a large navy to protect its merchant ships and to defend the right to trade with other countries.
Now, I'm not mistaken, this is the time period where we began to build up our navy, is it not?
Yes.
Alright, well, your book became a bestseller, congratulations.
Thank you.
And that helped the public support for a big navy. Also, many senators and presidents supported this idea. What other ideas did the U.S. have on this subject?
Well, the three ideas combined with my influence were that business leaders wanted new markets overseas. Anglo-Saxonism had convinced many Americans that they had the destiny to dominate the world, and growing European imperialism threatened American security. With this, the Congress authorized the construction of a modern American Navy.
Well, folks, you guys heard about the building of the Navy. We're going to cut to a short break, and we'll be back soon. Welcome back to the show. Short little clip about the Spanish-American War. The Spanish-American War, the war on American imperialism, was fought primarily between, guess who? The U.S. and Spain. During the war, the U.S. defeated Spain, acquired new overseas territories, and became an imperial power. But why? Why did we get involved in Cuban affairs with Spain? To help answer this question, we have video footage of what went down to call for American intervention. Roll the clip.
Rolling.
Blood on the roadsides, blood on the field, blood on the doorsteps. Blood! Blood! Blood!
Welcome back. Now that we got a good view on why we got into the war, let's talk about the results. Our next special guest in the show will help us answer some questions as to what happened at the end of the war. Everyone welcome Jatan! Welcome to the show, Jatan. So, you got his nickname J-Tank by his extraordinary war efforts and bravery he showed in the war. Alright, so, why don't you tell us about the finalizations from the war?
Well, the finalization of the war was decided by the Treaty of Paris. It stated that Cuba would be given freedom as promised. Spain and America would agree that the U.S. would annex Guam and Puerto Rico, and the U.S. would buy the Philippines from Spain for about $20 million, thus making the United States an imperial power.
$20 million. I don't think we'll do that.
Good for you, dog.
Well, it obviously didn't end there, that's for sure. What else can you tell us?
Well, in the Philippines, there was a rebellion, you know. Emilio Aguinaldo did not like the annexation of his homeland and ordered the troops to attack American soldiers. Taft tried to stop this by reforming education, transportation, and healthcare for the Filipinos, but this only slowly reduced the hostility. It wasn't until American troops captured Aguinaldo that there was a peace in the Philippines, and the guerrillas surrendered. Eventually, 1946, the U.S. granted independence to the Philippines.
That's great. Now, what else happened in Puerto Rico and Cuba?
Puerto Rico, the Forker Act was passed, making it an unincorporated territory. It wasn't until 1947 that the island was given the right to elect its own governor, but it was not a state to the U.S. This debate still carries on today. Meanwhile, in Cuba, the Platt Amendment specified that Cuba not make a treaty with any other nation. Cuba allowed the U.S. to buy or lease naval stations in Cuba. Cuba keep their debts low in case of foreign interference. And finally, the U.S. had the right to intervene in Cuba to protect its independence. This made Cuba an American protectorate.
Well, that wraps up the show for today. It's a good show.
See any Spaniards? Now it's right there. I got it.